How much trouble is Pauline Hanson's One Nation party in? One Nation won 4 Senate seats at the election, a stunning result. But one of those senators, Rod Culleton, may now lose his seat because at the time he was elected, he was convicted of a crime that carries a penalty of more than a year in jail. He actually just stole a key from a tow truck driver that he was arguing with. Now, even his leader, Pauline Hanson, voted today to have the High Court decide whether to throw Culleton out. She voted to essentially help him out of the Senate. Pauline Hanson joins me now. A very difficult decision for you, Pauline. Why did you back the government and Labor to get the High Court to decide whether your own senator must go?
Very hard day for me, Andrew. What have I always tried to purport to the people? That I want honesty and integrity back in the floor of Parliament. We the people, and this was me before I got elected again, was sick and tired of seeing the corruption, the lies, the dishonesty that was happening in the Parliament. So it tore my heart out to actually, have to stand up and say the words that I did. But everyone must be responsible for their actions, regardless if you're a member of Parliament, whatever. And the whole fact is that I believe that it needs to go to the High Court for a determination, and I still stand by that.
Even though it involves him pinching, what, a $7 key?
Andrew, he was convicted of this prior to his endorsement and his nomination to the AEC. We have to go back to the Constitution. I stand by the Australian Constitution in many areas. Now, for me to gain the respect of the people that I am representing them on the floor of Parliament, then I must stand by this, regardless of the fact whether it was a One Nation senator, whether it is myself, whoever. I have to stand by what I feel is right, fair and just, and I stand by that. Let the courts now have a look at the case, and if he was annulled after it, then okay. Then if they see that he was annulled and he can still go back into the Senate as a senator, I'm so happy. Because Rod has been a great representative for the people. He has fought for the farming sector against the banks, and he will do an excellent job. And that's all I can say.
Are you going to be, or is One Nation rather, going to pay his court costs?
No, I can't. I had a national executive meeting with this, and unanimously we have said we are not going to cover the costs. Andrew, it's not fair to the members of the party as well. I have to run this party in all fairness, and I actually have to ensure our viability and that we will be here in the long term. I have got staff, I have got an office and people to actually support. And the whole fact is that I cannot and we cannot afford to do this. It could run into the millions of dollars. We haven't got the money. And I'm sorry to say that. And I think this is what Rod's not happy about, but I can't do anything else about that.
But the thing is, of course, that there comes a cost, doesn't it? Like, I think you might risk making an enemy of him, not by backing him, and by not backing him and by not financing his court costs. Will he stick with your party then if the court decides he can stay?
That's a decision that Rod has to make. And I have to look at the long term for the party, the longevity of the party, and it was a national executive decision unanimously not to pay for the court costs. We can't afford it. We haven't got the money. We haven't got the bankroll that major political parties have. And that's, it's a shame, but that's the way it is, Andrew. And I'm sorry about this. But the whole fact is this was all in train prior to the election. This happened to Rod prior to his coming on board with One Nation.
Well, the West Australian newspaper has just released CCTV footage of Rod Culleton, the senator, running apparently from 2 former business associates who were trying to serve him with a subpoena. Do you know anything about that matter?
For the first time, I saw it on Sky News this afternoon. That's the first time I've actually seen that. And anyway, I can't say anything about it.
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering who vetted this guy?
I actually went to a Senate inquiry into the banking sector in February of this year, and I was quite impressed with Rod, his determination, his fight that he had for the banking sector. And I thought, wow, you'd be great on the floor of Parliament because you're a fighter, you're out there, you fight for the people. And I encouraged Rod. It was me. I encouraged Rod to stand.
Yeah.
So,
did you make a
mistake,
do you think?
Andrew? Okay, and so have the major political parties. Look at the ones that they have. Can we name Craig Thompson and a few of the others? So, okay, maybe I have made a mistake, but you know what? I think the man has got a lot to offer on the floor of Parliament, and he actually will do the right thing by the farming sector and bring the banks to account, which we will fight on for. So I hope he wins this case, but in all honesty, I have to go to the people with what I think is fair and just and what's integrity and honesty, and people would expect no less of me, Andrew.
Well, after we sat through Labor sticking by Craig Thompson, it makes a dramatic change. But who's going to replace Rod Culleton if the High Court says he was ineligible to stand, can't be in Parliament? Will it be the guy who was second on his ticket, his brother-in-law, Peter Georgiou?
Well, that's what would be determined by the High Court. If they actually go back to the recount, then it would be the second on the ticket. And I think that's the way it will pan out, unless the High Court says it is a one-nation seat, and then we as a party will determine who goes into that seat.
Well, I'm not sure you'd want Mr Georgiou, would you? Because he turns out to be a Paul Keating supporter. He'll probably be a bit embittered by what's happened to his brother-in-law. How about James Ashby? There are suggestions that your right-hand man might like that seat himself.
What a load of hogwash. Andrew, I don't know where that rumour's come from. And there's no way in the wide world, and I'm sick of these rumours that are being started by media who want to sensationalise an issue. That's not the case. James Ashby will never take up the spot of Senator in WA. And not only that, I don't believe it's fair to the people of Western Australia to parachute someone into that seat that is not a Western Australian who knows the state and will fight for the state. You know, I'm not like the other political parties who parachute people into other states, and that's not me. So it is not James Ashby, so please don't head down that track.
I was out there and it wasn't the media that started it, but I'm afraid I can't reveal who did, but I wouldn't be looking a million miles from Parliament to find that person. But anyway, does this mean that effectively, given his feeling rather bruised, that One Nation is now down to really 3 senators?
Not really, Andrew, because, you know, Rod is still there and he is a One Nation senator. Now, let's see what happens in the High Court. And the whole fact is that we are standing beside him, right? Rod's going through a traumatic time, right? I'm concerned about his mental well-being and how he's feeling at this time. You know, I've been through a lot over the years, and I know what he must be going through. He probably feels a bit let down because financially we're not going to support him because we can't support him. But the whole fact is, don't take away from what that man has to offer the Parliament. He did a fantastic maiden speech. He has a lot to offer. And he is, you know, I just hope it all pans out very well for him.
The complaint against the cartoonist Bill Leak that the Human Rights Commission is investigating, are you surprised that the Commission is taking on this complaint from the Aboriginal woman I showed earlier?
Really? She's, I would never have picked her for Aboriginal, Andrew, so it surprises me. But anyway, that's...
well, I'm afraid I can't go there because I think your comment contravenes the Racial Discrimination Act, which is one more reason perhaps it should be reformed. But I would have thought that a fear of racial vilification in Australia, well, I'm not sure what racial vilification she would have got walking down the street myself, but I don't know her, so there you go.
He would be protected under 18D of the legislation anyway, bill leaks, because he'll be protected there.
A bill leak, yeah.
Andrew, it needs to actually, this has got to the ridiculous, what is happening with this whole thing. And I feel for those students, what they've gone through for the last 3 years of actually, you know, $250,000 fine for what? Because they said, reverse racism. Go back to my first maiden speech in this parliament, 1996, and I explained exactly then what was happening. And you know, I will fight for anyone's rights in this country, but it's got to the ridiculous now that you can't say or have an opinion, and it's reverse racism, and I'm sick and tired of hearing about it.
Now, I must point out that the Australian newspaper has been trying to get a comment from Ms Dinnigan to put her side of the story, and from her family without luck. And she is, of course, welcome any time to put a position here without heckling or interruption, and I'd be most keen to hear her experiences of being discriminated against and why she thinks bill leaks should be censored. Now, listen, Malcolm Turnbull today said the Human Rights Commission should be reformed, should review seriously its processes because of the way it handled the case with the Queensland students. Pauline, reform it or scrap the joint completely as a menace to free speech?
Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Andrew, the public are very in tune with the perception of how people express things and what they say. The public will judge us. The public will judge me and my comments. Aren't we smart enough to understand that if the public don't like what we say, they will come out and ridicule us? Do we need a commission? Do we need a Triggs? Do we need, you know, human rights, equal opportunity? Do we need all those people to tell us whether we're right or wrong? I think the public themselves will judge us, and they'll cast their judgment on us.
Yeah, it's strange. America doesn't have this kind of law and doesn't have these commissars that go around trying to enforce it. So I don't know why we do. We must be ruder than Americans or something. I don't know.
No, we're giving them all jobs,
or else we're sheep.
Highly paid jobs, and we're just putting them there and we're justifying their positions, or they're trying to justify their positions. Malcolm Turnbull, get rid of them. We don't need them. You know, trust the people's perception of how they see these people. They are our best judges.
Now, I think you're absolutely right. But listen, I don't want to make either of us contravene the Racial Discrimination Act again, but here's another topic it's very difficult to talk about with the laws that they are. Melbourne is suffering an incredible crime wave, Pauline. I don't know whether you notice it in Queensland from that distance. For instance, 4 Officeworks stores were robbed on the weekend by an African gang, up to 15 youths, carrying their goods out and apparently jeering about it in the car park. 2 weeks ago, a jewellery store in Toorak, of all places, was robbed and smashed by 3 more youths of African appearance. There is a huge crime wave. There seems to be something wrong, seriously wrong, with our immigration program, doesn't there? And particularly our refugee one.
You better believe it, and I've been saying it for a long time. Oh, these are the apex gangs. I actually had a meeting, and I have been down to Victoria, Andrew, and I had a meeting with the police president of the police union. He said that day that the Moomba festival was on, they saw all these riots going on. They were told not to go in and try and control it. They would actually pick them up by TV footage later on. The whole fact is, our politicians, our leaders of this nation are too gutless to actually do anything about it. We are bringing people in here who have a culture, and that's their way of life. They have no understanding of how we are in Australia. We can't keep bringing these people in. And my attitude is, if you want to break the law and carry on like this, then if you are dual citizens, then ship them out of the country. Send them back where they belong. We don't need the problems here in Australia. People are sick and tired of it. They don't feel safe on the streets. They don't feel safe in their businesses. They can come in and do whatever they want to do, and everyone is frightened, absolutely frightened. And I blame our leaders of this nation for this going on.
And Americans finally, Pauline, are voting tomorrow. Who do you hope will win?
Donald Trump. I know you're flabbergasted by that, but I don't care. Because, you know what? Okay. Donald Trump, you know what? I believe that the more the media, the more the political parties, everyone has a go at someone, like me, over the years, the more they should be on the floor of Parliament. Because I'm sick and tired of the Clintons, I'm sick and tired of their corruption, I'm sick and tired of the lies that's happened over the years. People are changing around the world. They want to change. And it happened in Australia with my election. It's happened in Britain with the Brexit. And it's going to happen in America. So I hope that people really wake up. If they don't like him, then vote him out in 4 years. But, geez, give him a change. They need a change over there.
Pauline Hanson, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Andrew. Bye.